Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast, empowering and inspiring your journey to optimal health. Hosted by Dr. Supatra Tovar, clinical psychologist, registered dietitian, fitness expert, and author of Deprogram Diet Culture. Rethink your relationship with food, heal your mind, and live a diet-free life. I follow my guests' journey to optimal health, providing you with the keys to unlock your own wellness path. Tune in and evolve with us. Welcome to the ANEW Insight Podcast. I am honored to have registered dietitian, nutritionist, certified eating disorder specialist, and intuitive eating counselor, Robyn Goldberg, with us today. Robyn, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to pick your brain. Robyn is very well known in her field, and I'm very excited to have her on my podcast to discuss all things disordered eating and eating disorder so that we can help some people out there who might be struggling. And remember, if you do, there's going to be some links and some numbers you can call if you are thinking that you or a loved one might have an eating disorder. So I'm going to read a little bit about Robyn, and then we're going to get into our questions. Robyn Goldberg is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, certified eating disorder specialist, intuitive eating counselor, and health at every size or HAES practitioner. She began her career at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, focusing on cardiology and gastroenterology before transitioning into private practice. For more than 20 years, she has worked with individuals struggling with medical conditions, eating disorders, disordered eating, and body image concerns. Her private practice in Beverly Hills also serves individuals with dual diagnoses, fertility issues, and those recovering from chronic dieting. That is a lot of what I see in my practice as well. She provides supervision to other professionals, speaks nationally at conferences, and contributes to media outlets, including the New York Times, Shape, and Today's Dietitian. Robyn is also the author of The Eating Disorder Trap, a guide for clinicians and loved ones, and has been featured in numerous television and podcast interviews. Robyn, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here with you.
Yes, definitely. So I always like to start off with a little bit of background so people understand what inspired you to take the route that you're taking, what led you to doing the work that you're doing now. And I'd also love to hear more about your book.
Sure. So I chose my profession based on my family history of heart disease and high cholesterol. My dad was alive at the time, and growing up, always hearing about anemia. Everyone in my family hereditarily has it. I've had it since I was 12, and it was just the message that we grew up with. And I initially started out as an exercise physiology major, but couldn't handle the cadavers in school. So I migrated into dietetics as I realized I was a collegiate tennis player, that was it. My career was ending in college. I was not going to be professional, so really had to kind of figure out what my career path would be moving forward. So my family history is what initially inspired me to choose the path of dietetics.
Oh, I love that. I think we do have some similarities as well. I started in the fitness industry myself, and I can really relate to working on the cadavers. That was not something that I enjoyed, something that was very educational, but certainly wasn't a path that I wanted to go down. And dietetics just provided the healthcare without the access to fluids and things like that.
For sure. I mean, it was really like, okay, if I actually think about what I'm putting in my body, perhaps my performance will be better or different and have a different outcome. And that was discussed
Yes.
too. So that was another kind of motivating factor.
I love this. How did you transition then? You went from Cedars-Sinai doing some more medical nutrition therapy and transferred into private practice and started to work with eating disorders and wrote your book. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. So I knew from the time I was in school, I wanted to be in private practice, but it was told to me repeatedly, you can't just like hang up your shingle. It's important to be able to obtain that experience. So I gave myself a 5-year benchmark of really trying to become well-versed, well-rounded, and just obtain as much experience as I could. As when I started out, I only wanted to be the dietitian for the Lakers, always wanted to work in sports nutrition. And it's really awesome to see how I've expanded and I have many interests in area of specializations. And I had worked at the same time, actually, I was the nutrition director at an outpatient eating disorder program, an IOP. And that interest started because three of my roommates, when I was at Sonoma State, that's where I started playing tennis, all had bulimia nervosa. So I would fall asleep at night to them purging. And that was my exposure and introduction initially. So I knew private practice would be the long haul. It was obtaining that experience. And as Supatra, when we start out, we really want to be able to get as much experience as we can. So then we can really hone in on what our niche would be.
Yes, absolutely. So, how did your work transition into your authoring your book?
So throughout my career, probably similarly to you, you'll hear colleagues and friends and family say, well, when are you going to put out a book? And I've always been, like, I would say, the publicist for all of our colleagues promoting this book and that book. And I had decided if I was ever going to write a book, I wanted to write a book that was different from the books that existed in the field. And what I mean by that is something that could be user friendly to all, not just clinicians, not just family members, be written in a way that you don't have to have a PhD. It could be the checker at the grocery store could read. And I decided growing up, my brother was an avid comic book collector, and I found being a visual learner, seeing pictures oftentimes could describe something if one was not able to comprehend what the message would be. So I had interviewed illustrators that could embrace all different body shapes and sizes and really be inclusive to all, as opposed to the typical stigmatizing illustrator where it's like a large head and smaller body. So I had decided I really had a variety of topics I wanted to discuss and to be able to have illustrations before each subject matter that can then be a deep dive in on what that subject matter would be written in a very general, basic way.
I love this. I agree with you. That's how I wrote my book. I wanted it to be accessible for everyone and something that was easily digestible and pretty clear cut for anybody who picks that up. So, what do you hope people get out of reading your book?
Well, I think to be able to first understand that you can't look at someone and determine if they have an eating disorder, since eating disorders affect all ages, all genders, all body shapes and sizes, as opposed to the assumption that it's a specific individual that has an eating disorder. So I always like to say, you walk into a room, anyone in that room could have an eating disorder. You walk into a grocery store, anyone in there could have one. So that's the first part. Also, questions that would be beneficial if you are a coach, if you are a religious figure, if you are a physician, that can be beneficial to incorporate in your conversations with folks, as well as body language, I think can be very telling, like really learning how to be mindful and change the body language, because sometimes that can be very activating for people. And also really to understand like what's going on through one's mind and medically, how every body part is impacted. So there was a lot I was really hoping to achieve. And look, I feel like anyone that picks it up, it can help them, whether they're a client or they have a loved one struggling or they're a guardian.
Yes. How did you come up with the title of your book?
Good question. I don't think anyone's asked me that before.
Wow.
Well, the original title, I'm going to tell you. So I was working with a trademark lawyer and I learned that you can't just like pick a title. It has to be researched to see if it is available. So the original title, and I'm glad I have my title, was actually The Hunger Games. So my trademark lawyer was in touch with the Hunger Games trademark lawyer. I had a whole email with the author. And as I had explained, like what this was about, of course, there was a no-go based on like because the book, the film. So by looking, and I'll just grab. So on the eating disorder trap, so there's a number of things I learned between metaphor of color and in it. So the background, I'm not sure if you can tell what the background actually is, Supatra, but the background is a vortex. It's the black hole. And this is showing that a person's going down. And so as you are going up, the color lightens, and this shows that there is hope and there is a way out. And trap is like you're in serious trouble.
Mm.
So I learned, probably like you, that you want to have a catchy title, not have so many words. And I had a number of titles that I was between, but this was actually it. And the vortex was my husband's brainchild, because initially when I had hired the designer for the book cover, first the covers, I was like, oh, this looks like an astrology science book in the galaxy. So it's really cool to see how it came to life. And that's just kind of a snapshot in how I came up with the title and the whole design.
Yes, and I think that there is a certain trap that people fall into when they're kind of descending toward an eating disorder. And if you could identify some of the traps that people might fall into, what would they be?
I think one of the ones that's very common right now is this term with like